Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Nightlight. Ken just mentioned with a little luck. Yeah, maybe that's going to fit in with tonight's show. Maybe we actually know what we're doing. I don't know. We're gonna have a good 2 hours. We don't specialize in a lot of afterlife topics, but the subject comes up from time to time. Recently, we've done ghost shows, and I think that was more related to the guests' availability than design, or was there some type of synchronicity? That's just part of the numerous questions I have our guest tonight. We have a scholar joining us tonight to help us connect the dots and answer some of these metaphysical questions from recent shows and whatever else that comes up. And have a whole bunch of questions that have already come in from a number of friends and the swirly twirly girl and a whole bunch of other people who are very excited about tonight's show. Reverend Bill McDonald is our guest. He is a Viet Nam veteran, a traveler to exotic lands, a poet, and author of Alchemy of a Warrior's Heart. You can learn more about him by going to his website, revbillmcdonald.com. And if you like what you hear from the expanding hosts at Nightlight, please subscribe to Barbara's YouTube channel. Hi, Reverend Bill. How are you?
I'm. If I was any better, Mark, I'd be you, or I'd certainly want to be you. At least be in that same aura and presence. Just staying in your shadow makes me feel enlightened.
Okay.
Now you got to realize that I incorporated another title today in the mail. I got one of my friends in Scotland bought a little piece of property. I mean, little. It's little tiny piece of property that incorporates this big nature preserve. And by virtue of me being Scottish and owning a piece of property, I was given a title. Now, the English version of that is Lord, so I'm Lord Reverend Bill McDonald, but the Scots, it's Lard, L-A-R-I-D, Lard, Reverend Bill. So just be respectful the humble place that you have in my shadow now. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, see, little known fact. But
okay, I didn't know that.
Last time I was in the UK, that's a place that I went in 2016. Last time I was there, And I didn't really know anybody there. I mean, I knew a couple people, Facebook friends you don't really know, right? You know some people online and a couple people. But I got there and I spent a couple of months or so, at least a month and a half, and I found some of the most brilliant, there's an English term, right? Brilliant. Everybody in England, brilliant. He's brilliant. He's brilliant. Some of the most unique people. It's like they found me. And I went to this one town in Wales, which I didn't know was famous for being one of these suicide capitals of the world. I don't know why I want to go down this road today, but it just feels like it's maybe a subject out there because I've been dealing this week with several people that have children that have been suicidal. I mean, 2 or 3 of them just in the last 10 days. So I'm thinking this phenomenon is kind of happening out there. But when I went to Wales to stay at a friend's house, James and his family, I was overcome with this dark, heavy, foreboding energy when I got off the train and walked into the town. It was late at night and walked to the guy's house, and it was just really there. And then a couple of days later, we went walking into the woods. And in the woods, there's a clearing with these stones, kind of like Stonehenge.
Yeah.
It's all kinds in the UK, but they're not, they were 3, 4, 5 feet tall, maybe
right.
6, not huge ones, but it was a big circle. And it was just me and James, and I'm leaning on this one, and I'm kind of sitting on it. And I'm just getting overwhelmed with depression, grief, darkness. And I'm visualizing young people sitting around, not in old times, but in modern times, sitting around there doing something like magic, black magic or something. At least they thought they were doing something, having fun. But I felt that they were opening up something really not good for the whole town. While I was staying there, my energy kept draining. The more I kept praying for this darkness that I felt and praying for the people I felt that were having this darkness there, it kept draining me to the point that when I got back to the United States, just a day after I got back to the United States, I was in the hospital and they said I was going to die. I mean, I actually drained down to that level where I actually was dying a little bit at a time. When I got back and I got that was 2016, but it wasn't until this year, because I was starting to write my new book, that I kept thinking about the darkness that this town was. Bridgeton is the name of the town. If somebody wants to look that up on the internet, if you look at YouTube videos, which I was looking for some video on it, travel log, kind of see where I've been. And then I found all these videos about this epidemic cluster of young people taking their lives in this town. And it started just a few years before I got there. And for a period of about 4 years, there was like 100 young people taking their lives. 100 for a town that's not very big, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people. And you have 100 young people take their lives. We're talking about hanging themselves and things. That's really strange, but I kind of tied it all together to that energy that I discovered in that circle. And I hope we'll go something a little lighter from that, but I was thinking about that today, because people don't realize that young people are so susceptible to these lower level energies that are out there. People, there was something on the news in America tonight where they were talking about one of these shows that it's possible that 6th, 7th graders and all the way down to first and kindergarten, these kids are being treated. Imagine a kindergarten being treated for depression. So with the holidays coming up, I thought, boy, that's just. So I think people have to be cognizant of the fact that what's happening in the world right now they talk about old people in old homes because they're not getting visitors and they're depressed. So I think old people handle it. It's the young people not in school right now. It's the young people not having associations with other young people and that young energy that's going to hurt them. So thank God that we got a light at the end of the tunnel for this virus. You know, this time next year, I think we're going to be back on track. But that was just something that was kind of hanging over me. So before we started the show a couple of days ago, I go, you know, I'm going to tell an upbeat story to start this thing off about the holidays. So I think I'm going to dash off to there because that's kind of like okay, I just gave you an energy bomb. Boom, let's bring everybody down. But that's just a warning thing out there. For people really need to know that children really do need spiritual, emotional hugs right now. They need understanding. You know, even if it means you got to slack off on the discipline and the homework, but these kids need to have fun. So let's go to Christmas 1969. Christmas 1969.
Okay.
All right. It's a 10th of December, which is just before Christmas, and I met my wife to be. We were both 14 years old in high school, and then in my senior year, I drifted off. I had to go. When I graduated high school, I you know, California surfer. I had to go to Hawaii, right? I just said, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. Break it up, right? So I went to Hawaii, spent the summer surfing. You know, that's what you do when you're 18 years old. So we were an off and on relationship, mostly off. When she went to college, I went to Viet Nam. I was in the military, but I got back. So I got back in 1969, and I was back in San Francisco, and I go, hey, I'm back. You know, and she goes, where you been? You know, life goes on, right? So I kept asking her to marry me. I said, you know, you're the one that I'm going to marry, right? I know that. I've dreamt it. And she kept turning me down. You know, she didn't want to talk about it. So that got my confidence really good. So I went out and bought a ring after getting turned down 10 times. I actually went out and spent $400 and bought a diamond ring. Only a foolish man or a stalker would do that, right? You know, you go out and buy a ring. I ain't taking no for an answer. So I show up at her house. It's Christmas season. She's got this girl Bev, who's her roommate, and they've spent the entire day putting up a Christmas tree in their Twin Peaks apartment. I think it's Twin Peaks where they live. They had a beautiful view of San Francisco out the window. But they had a tree, and in the old days, I don't know if you remember this, Mark, you're old enough to know. Remember those old Christmas lights where they had one strand? In other words, if you had one light bulb and you had 400 bulbs or 500 bulbs, whatever amount of bulbs, if one bulb was out, thing was out.
Strand wouldn't work.
One wire, that was it. You know, it wasn't individually done. So they had 800 plus lights on this tree. And they said they were, when I got there, they were frustrated. They were talking about they've been working 8 hours on this tree. They've twinkled and touched every light. They've changed light bulbs. They've done everything. They can't get them to work. And I go, this is my opportunity, right? So I go over to them and I'm looking right in the eye, right? And then I reach back and I said, now watch this. Basically, I'm telling them, okay, I'll fix it for you. Right now, I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. And I reach back at random. I grab first bulb that my fingers hit and twist it, and all 800 plus lights come on, right? And I know it because I'm not looking at it, but I know it because I'm looking at their faces. And they're like, you know, so I figured, hey, look, you're never going to get any more lucky than that, right? Took the ring out of my pocket, got down on my knee, and asked my wife to marry me. And then she looked at me and says, well, anybody that lucky, I gotta marry, right? So that's what happens when you get turned down 10 times, when you ask somebody to marry you, but you feel lucky. So, Mark, you started the thing off tonight about being lucky, and I'm going to ask you, Mark, how lucky do we feel tonight? What's going to go on here? What do you want to know? Ask. Lord,
okay.
Here, ask.
Okay. Okay. Congratulations on the 51st anniversary of your proposal.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe one of the most perplexing questions would be, do you have an explanation for the heavy breather from the last time you were on with Barbara?
Okay, let's talk about that, because not only her show, not her show, but there was one just days later where I was talking about demons. I don't know if it was Barbara, I was talking about ghosts or something else, but I was talking another demon story. And the person that, I think it was Niche or somebody, and she took forever to edit it. And I said, what's the holdup? She says, well, I spent the last days trying to get all these sounds out of there. And I said, what do they sound like? So she says, okay, I got one left. I haven't deleted this one yet. It wasn't on the main tape, but she just had it. So she played it. And it was, I'm talking about demons can't hurt me. And you hear this, and it was like sporadic through this whole section of the tape. And with Barbara, we were Skyping each other, so we were looking at each other. So it wasn't either one of us doing it. And when it got done,
I was on mute.
Yeah. And then when we heard it being played, it was like, well, it sounded like somebody had a hot mic, and somebody was breathing in a mic. Well, I looked at the thing, and just our names were on there.
Yeah.
That's all there was. And I've been on Skype before. It just shows the name of the people that are on there. And I think you looked, and there might have been another person on there. I don't know. But
yeah.
But we were the only 3 authorized people on there. But somebody was actually breathing. It was deliberate. It was loud. And that came just days after this other thing. So I finished that. I said, well, maybe I don't want to tell demon stories anymore, possession stories, exorcisms. That was odd. Okay, so what's my theory on it? I really think that words are powerful. They create energy and vibration. So when I am talking, in particular, when I am talking about a subject matter, let's say I'm talking about healing that creates a certain vibration. If I'm talking about exorcism, that lowers the vibration. It's a whole different level. If I'm talking about demons, it's a whole different level. When I am talking about that, my energy, I was going to use the word motivates, but activates the reaction. It's not like these other entities are on another planet. So, they're all here. It's like, you don't go looking for these guys. What we don't understand is everything happens right now, right here. No time, no space, no space, literally. It means they're not out there, they're here. So when you have a conversation about a subject, that's why one should be very careful what you talk about, what you watch, what you read, what you do. So if you have somebody perpetually, let's take a serial killer that watches all these crazy movies all the time, and he reads crazy stuff, and he's thinking all this crazy stuff. He's creating an energy level of vibration around him that matches the monster that's growing within him. So sometimes, and I say this from experience from working with people at Folsom Prison, where I was a volunteer chaplain, there are some very dangerous people in this world. And when you're around them, you could almost taste, feel, and touch that evil energy that is present within them. They may be smiling at you, they may be laughing at you, they may be, but you can feel it. It's just below the surface. One doesn't have to be that sensitive. Dogs pick it up. If you ever notice, sometimes dogs don't like certain people. It's just something about them that the dog picks up on it. So I always had this thing that, if a dog doesn't like somebody, I got to think twice about the person. It's like, You know, maybe there's something. Sometimes it could just be fear. Some people are just fearful, and it makes the dog uneasy. But a lot of times, but then again, the question you got to ask Mark, which you should have jumped on, was, well, how about Adolf Hitler? He had 2 German Shepherds. Okay, I rest my case. Doesn't go there. But I'm talking about in general, right? Because even bad guys had dogs. I don't know if the dogs love them, but the dogs obey them. And then you got to ask yourself, those dogs almost have like an evil animal soul. It's like, like guard dogs at a prison camp or something, It's a different kind of dog than you would get if the dog was raised with a blind person or a comfort dog or, a child's pet. So everything is all about energy. So those voices, we just activated and we woke them up. We challenged them. It was like, for example, when I was in one of my main trips to India, I was in an ashram. The guru went to bed, and there was just a few of us disciples, devotees hanging around there. And we had an old sacred fire that was going down, and we decided we were going to start telling ghost stories, and demon stories. And all. These guys were telling all these stories, trying to outdo the other guy. And there was a guy that was a former rock star. I mean, the guy was going big time, and then he got drugs and alcohol. And so he was talking about when he got into that state that was going downhill with his career, that he experienced these demons, and they were real and scared him and all that. And then there was this Indian girl that told this beautiful ghost story that was really spooky. I mean, it was just really good. And so then arrogant me, remember Lord MacDonald here, the arrogance of myself at this sacred place, I challenge the universe. I go, there's nothing that scares me. I've been blown up. I've been shot up. I've seen ghosts. I've been kidnapped by aliens, abducted on a spaceship. I mean, you name it. I've seen tigers. I've seen bear. I've seen it all, right? I make that statement at one of the more sacred locations of India. I just challenge the universe. Hey, universe, you can't scare me, right? So I set something up in motion, right? So sometimes you wake it up. And that's one time I did. I went back to the bungalow and the fire's out. Went back, I got a room all by myself, and I opened up the metal door and shined my flashlight in this dark room, and then sitting at the end of the bed was this divine guru that was staring at me like lasers coming out of his eyes. The lasers were hitting me, like ching. I mean, literally like lasers, like there's a beam, right? And it shouldn't have scared me, but it did. It was like you'd expect nothing. All of a sudden, you shine a light, and there's a guy sitting in a lotus position, staring at you, right? No shirt on, long black hair, just boom, beam, and like nothing scares you. Okay, guy. It was like a challenge, right? And I had the flashlight, and I throw it up in the air, kind of like that movie 2001: Space Odyssey, where the monkeys, whatever the apes. They throw the bone up and it goes through the air and spins around. Well, this flashlight does that, spins around, and he's just sitting there, literally laser-eyed on me, right? And my heart's going like this, and I'm going. So I pick up the flashlight and I shine it, and now he's gone. And I look around and I shine it around. Nobody's there. And so I go, whew, thank God, because I had a reputation. They called me the general. Another story on why, but they call me the general because nothing frightens the general, right? And so I challenged it, made a big statement in front of all these people, and I looked around and said, thank God nobody saw it, right? Nobody will know. So the next morning I'm walking across the ashram, and I hear the patter of little feet behind me, and there's this guru. And he comes up behind me and he goes, Peter, I didn't think those things were supposed to scare you. I go, what? And he made me tell the story at breakfast to the whole group of people. I don't know, 7,500 people there. And I go. So then the guy that wasn't afraid of anything had to admit that, yes, it was heart pounding. But so sometimes you got to really be careful when you wake up. And that was waking up a good guy. I mean, could have been it was a good guy. But there's a fine, thin film of light between us and what we think is not us. Because in reality, it is all us. So people go, well, do you believe in heaven? Do you believe in hell? Do you believe in reincarnation? And I'm saying, yes and no. And they, what do you mean yes and no? Well, if you believe this life is real, for you it is. And if you believe this life is real and you were born and you believe you die, then you believe in reincarnation, then you believe in karma. But in truth, none of that exists. Because since we're all one with this cosmic conscious force, we're all that one. We are all that one. There is only us. And when you push us together, there's just one. It's we, it's us, it's the I. The identification with the I no longer exists. So, yeah. So everything is occupying the same time and the same space. Now, I told it to my grandson when he was little, and he goes, okay, Grandpa, let me get this right. Let me ask you a question. I said, ask. He says, all right, there's no time and space. When was the first moment? When did God start this show? What is the beginning? I said, well, there's no beginning. And there is no end. And there's no way, not even I can get a grasp of that, because you were using your mind, you're using the brain, thoughts, to try to answer a question which is not possible. It's a question only to be answered if you didn't occupy a consciousness, an individual one. So I don't know if that, whatever the question was, there you go. So I'm off on that.
I forget what I asked too, but with this, holiday season, there have been some documented unexplained events. Star of Bethlehem, leading the Magi across the desert and stops and hovers over the manger. I don't know what was the star doing. Most stars are fixed. It's the Earth that's moving. It's just something that's unexplained.
Well, think about this. Think about World War I.
Okay.
There's a famous story which people can look up. I don't have the details in front of me here, but there was a story on a Christmas Eve, and it was, going to be midnight. It was going to be Christmas, where the Germans and Americans and French, were the troops that were on each side of the line there fighting each other. The flare went up, and the sky lit up for a long, long, long time. And the next thing you know, guys were coming out of foxholes. They left their weapons, and both sides approached each other and shared wine and cookies and hugged and had conversations for 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour, whatever it was, in the middle of this battle where they were fighting. And then that magic light came on and lit up for a long time, where they all kind of walked out because the whole thing was lit up. The field was lit up. And they celebrated Christmas when just minutes before they were trying to kill each other. So there's a case where light didn't move and the hearts did. Mm-hmm. And there are stories, because people keep looking for this big story. And I'm going, no, there's a lot of little stuff. I had this thing with my son, who's a California high patrolman. And when he first got on the force, he wanted to buy me a gift or something for Christmas. And I said, no. I said, you want to do something for Christmas for me? You do a good deed and share the story with me. He said, I said, no, trust me. Something will happen. Do a good deed, share it with me. So I'll vicariously feel the joy that was there. So he was working Christmas night, or Christmas Eve into Christmas night, and towards the end of his shift in the early morning, the sun's coming up and everything, and he's driving down just past the Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco Bay Area, and he sees this young guy standing alongside the road on the highway. You know, it's Highway 1. You can't be on the highway. It's against the law, you know, and he's out there walking along the edge of the highway. So, and if it's Christmas morning, he ain't going to bust this guy, right? You know, he ain't going to bust his chops. So he pulls over and talks to the guy, gets his ID, and looks up in the computer, finds out he'd been out of San Quentin like 3 months or something. But his home address was in Mill Valley, I think, just right there. It was only 2 or 3 miles from the guy's home address in a real nice, ritzy neighborhood. And so he starts talking to this kid. He goes, how come you're out on the streets? So I got no place to go. You know, I got out of jail, but he was in jail 3 years, and he got out, and he had no place to go, and he was too embarrassed to go see his parents. He never even told his parents he was in jail. He just disappeared for 3 years. And so my son goes, no, not on my watch. Get in the back seat. He looks up that address, doesn't call in to get approval or nothing, because what he's doing is against the rules. Basically, he's going to take this kid to his parents. He's going to transport this kid to his parents' house, right? Mm-hmm. So he gets to the parents' house, and he has a kid. He says, no. He gets out of the car and just has a kid stand there next to the car. He says, don't move, stay here. So he knocks on the door, and this old couple comes to the door, and they keep looking out there at this kid, you know, looking out there. And my son tells him the story. He says, I found your son, homeless, walking down the highway. And they just broke down and cried and everything. And they told my son. They said they've been praying for 3 years for their son to come home. And they'd just been praying that morning. That's the only thing they wanted for Christmas, was to have their son come home. And there, their son stood on the sidewalk next to the police car. So my son signaled for him, give me a hand signal, come on over. And then he walked away to give him privacy and got in his vehicle and kind of was writing his book or something, and he watched them hug. Now, there's a lot of ways that story could have went, but it didn't. These people could have said, we don't want nothing to do with this kid. I mean, he stole from us. He did all these. I mean, it could have been a big fight. They could have called into his sergeant. He'd been in big trouble. But he went with his heart. It was Christmas Day. It's Christmas morning. How do you not follow your heart on Christmas? And that is the kind of stories that people tell me. So it's not the big miracle. Because people look at that, well, that's a lot of coincidences. That's a lot of coincidences. That's a lot, you know what? But it all lined up. And it all lined up. My son didn't have to do any of that. It's all lined up. There's the right cop stop. It's the right time on the freeway. So that's how life goes. And so for Christmas, like right now this year for Christmas, I'm going to tell you right now, though, even though people are talking about bad times for Christmas, there's people out there that are unemployed. There's people out there with not enough food. There's people that can't pay the rent. There's people that are homeless out there sleeping in their cars. And I'm going to tell you that Christmas, the spirit of Christmas, whether you're Christian, Hindu, Jew, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It's that, let's call it the Christ consciousness spirit. It's that spirituality that comes this time of year. Whatever religion you are, if you tune into it, it's there for everybody, all religions. Things will happen within you. You will have your own miracle. You'll be forgiven. You'll be loved. You'll be hugged. Something will happen. Somebody will smile at you. Somebody will give you something to eat. Something will happen. And if nothing else, there's that eternal wellspring of peace. What greater joy than to feel peace? Most people don't have peace in their life. They're angry people. They blame people for things that happen to them. They got all kinds of things going on. And right now, there's a lot of anger, especially if people pay attention to politics, which I try to avoid. So I'm telling people, hang on this year, because surviving this year is going to be the greatest gift. And we got people out there that are gift givers. Think of the beautiful stories that are going to take place years from now. People write books, and you'll find out about the doctors, the nurses, and the ambulance driver and the police officer. Yeah, we'll hear about those stories. But there's going to be stories about the people that helped children, helpless children, and people that helped an older person and went and visited somebody later on. Stories are emerging because every time you have something evil and bad happen, there's a balance. That means good. Light comes to fill the darkness, right? Goodness comes to take on the evil. There's a balance in nature. There's a balance in the spiritual world. The energies will try to balance out. So as bad as it gets equally as beautiful. It's a matter of just opening your awareness. If you see, okay, this is a stupid story, but it relates. I'm in India. And in fact, I even saw a movie. There was a Disney movie that was kind of similar to this, but I had the same kind of experience where I'm someplace and I'm walking with this holy man, and we're walking through this bad neighborhood. It smells like garbage. It smells like human waste. It's terrible. And there's poverty and people suffering everywhere. And this guy's smiling, and he's just so joyous and happy. And I go, and I point out all the garbage around him, right? I point out the people dying and doing this and that. He looks at me and he says, see over there? The cracks of that street growing between the cracks? There's a wildflower. I smell that. I see it. I focus on that. And see up there in the sky? There's a cloud. It's shaped like a little rabbit. You know, it just brings me. And you see it. He just keeps pointing out all these little things around me. I'm going, what? He says, wherever you look at and focus at, that's what you're going to see. If you see the garbage around you and that's what you focus at, that's all your life's going to be is garbage. But I can walk through the garbage dump and I can smell the petunias growing in somebody's yard, block away. It's what you focus on. So this year is what we got to look at as a society, as a family of man, as a tribe. We got to focus on how do we reach out and help our fellow brother, our sister? How do we help each other? And I think we're going to find ways. And we will survive this. And to me, this is the most beautiful time of the year, no matter what religion you are. Because love always finds a way to be born. So the whole story about birth in the manger, to me, it's about birth of love in the heart. That's the true manger. The wise man is always looking for that in others. He's trying to find that love in the hearts of others. So wise people look for love in the heart. And that's where this holiday should go. And,
Laird, there is, the stories that you were talking about sound like Leonard Cohen's song about the crack is where the light gets in, and it's like some of our friends like Serenity post that, and her music room. What you're talking about is, just give the light that little chance to enter into your life. In contrast that with the young people at the Stone Circle probably that stone circle wasn't even built for this same purpose that they were,
they were doing
grieving about.
Yeah, they were doing something like a Ouija boards or something. They were doing something trying to divine spirits. Totally amateurs. But I'm telling you, even an amateur can do that with the wrong, terrible results. So reverse of that is true. You try to create love and you try to bring light. Your intentions are very powerful. So that's why people got to be careful. Your intentions. What are your intentions? So this holiday, all of our intentions should be for literally, this is going to sound hokey, world peace and brotherly love and all. No, really, we should all be focused on outside of ourselves. Let's give what we got to others. The real gift is not a toy to a kid or, a box of chocolate to your mailman or somebody. The real gifts come from the heart. I mean, there are people, I'll tell you what, my unofficial job, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, whatever. And if my computer's on or if my phone is on, I'm already working. There are people in India and Germany and England and Australia. That part of the world's already hitting me. And then the East Coast hits me. But I'm busy until I turn it off at night. People all reaching out. And you know what? I've figured out what they all want. They don't want me to tell them, here's what you got to do. Here's a solution. No. Almost all of them just want somebody to hear them. Somebody just wants to be understood. That's one of the greatest gifts we can give somebody. Even a crazy person wants to be understood. I'll tell you a crazy person story. All right. Just thinking about it, thinking of crazy people. There was this group of people trying to help this older woman, and she kept calling these guys, these yogi guys, and saying, I got all these people walking by my house in Miami Beach, and everybody's reading my mind. Even the cabs are going by. They all know what I'm thinking. I had no privacy anymore. And they were trying to work with her and give her meditations and stuff. And then finally they go, you know what, we're going to stick Bill with her. Well, call Reverend Bill, right? So she calls me, right? And so sometimes you have to fight crazy with crazy. So what I told her, because, she seemed like actually, besides this thing to read her minds, she actually had a college degree. She in engineering or something. I mean, she was an intelligent person, but she was, same people reading her mind. So I go, you know what? I got an answer for you when she was on the phone with me. She goes, what? I said, it's foolproof. I said, it's going to sound odd, but you follow this to the exact letter that I'm going to give it to you, and I guarantee that you'll never have the problem again. You just do this. She says, what do you want me to do? You got to go to the store, and you got to get a roll of tin foil. If you can't find tin foil, then get aluminum foil. Really? Get a big one. Roll. You're going to come back, and you're going to mold it around your head like a cap. And then you put your hat over it. But wherever you go, your skull is contained within this tin foil. Nobody has to see it because you don't want them to know that they can't listen. But I guarantee you, as soon as you put that on your head, it's a shield, and nobody will be able to hear your thoughts. 3 weeks go by, I don't hear anything from her. Finally, she calls up. She says, thank you, Reverend Bill. I can sleep now. I've gained weight. I'm able to go to work. Everything's working out great. And nobody knows, but underneath my hat, I wear a hat all the time. I got that there. It works. Nobody's listening to my mind. Okay. So sometimes crazy advice is what the people need. In the end, the shaman, the witch doctor, they heal somebody. They tell them, drink this potion, take these leaves of this flower and this part of the animal and you burn it. And, they give you all kinds of concoctions. In truth, the real healer, by saying you're healed, you're healed. But most people can't get there unless they have something in their hands. So like in Western medicine, Doctor always gives you a pill of some kind, right?
Right.
do that. You know, you go to Ayurvedic medicine. You got to do this. You got to do puja. You got to do this. You got to burn this. You got to. So whatever medicines that you believe in for your healing, the healing all still takes place the same way. Your higher self heals you. Okay? So if somebody has great, for example, and this is not anything I do, and I'm just using this as an example, but there's people who watch my YouTube videos and they'll write me or they'll call me or Skype me or Zoom me and they go, "Oh, Reverend Bill, thank you for healing me." I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I watched your video and I got healed. And this thing here, you stopped my suicide, or you did this, you got rid of my depression, you got rid of whatever disease they had or something. And I try to tell them, it wasn't me. It's your belief in whatever I was saying. It's your belief in me. Again, it goes back to them. Because without their belief, we're all wasting our time, including the doctor. If you believe in a doctor, right, and you believe in Western medicine, it helps a lot. But so that's why it's really important when you go to a doctor and you got a disease and the guy goes, "Oh, this cancer's so bad, I only give you 6 months." Guess what happens? 6 months.
You die.
That guy told me they believe. I got friends. You got 6 months. They die. You can't convince them. No, my doctor says I got 6 months. Therefore, I got 6 months. I might only make 5 of that, but 6 months. And I can even make 6.5 or 7. That's like. So doctors really got to be careful. And that goes for, because I'm dealing with a couple people now that have been coming to me, and they have relatives, a mother, and somebody else has got a son in a coma. And I'm trying to tell them, whatever you say around them and whatever the doctor says earshot around them affects them. So if the doctor's telling you, "Hey, this guy, he ain't going to wake up, he's going to be an idiot, blah, blah, blah," that person's still in there, and the audio, the hearing, that's like one of the last things to go. They still hear. So if that person's in a coma and they keep hearing over and over these dreaded conversations with the nurse and the doctor and people around them that, they ain't got a chance. They ain't got a chance. Now, by the same token, sometimes it's your time to go, and you can't get rid of that date that's on, it's like a milk carton. You get that date on a milk.
Yeah.
Fires. So you still got an expiration date, but we can help heal ourselves, and we can also make ourselves sick. So let's talk about making yourself sick, because it's just the opposite of healing.
Okay.
Let's talk about, there's a lot of causes for illnesses, but let's talk about one of the more simple ones, the mind, the emotions. For years, for about 6-7 decades, I was a vegetarian. No meat, no liquor, no tobacco, no sugar, no salt. And you'd think, oh, this guy's a perfect living example of a healthy body, right? How could this guy have heart disease? How could this guy have 12 major heart attacks and open heart surgery and 8 stents? How could that happen, right? And then one day, somebody was telling me this story about all their problems, and I verbalized. I verbalized what I always say in my mind. I said, this breaks my heart. My heart hurts for them. It's killing my heart to hear this. I really want to help them, but it's killing my heart. And I realized I've been saying that for about 40 years. All these people I've helped with their problems, and my thought was always, it's killing my heart. And so think about that. So the body listens to my mind saying all this stuff is trying to protect my heart, right? So now the heart is going, wow, there's things trying to come and kill me. I'm going to build a barrier around my heart. Thus, I needed 8 stents, right? And blocked arteries. So it was blocking off the blood flow going to the heart. It was setting up a dam, a door, keeping out a fence, keeping out the world from my heart. And I heard myself, and this person just verbalized it back at me. He says, you realize what you're doing. Every time you do that, you give it an affirmation. And I go, what do you mean? Every time you say that, you're affirming that it's killing your heart. You're manifesting a bad heart. Wow, never thought about that. I know 3 doctors that specialized in different things. One specialized in heart disease, one specialized in cancer, and the other guy specialized brain surgery and tumors. Guess what they each died of? Exactly what they specialized in. Exactly what they specialized in. Cancer guy died of cancer. The tumor guy got a tumor in the brain, and you know, it was all the same. What they focused on, what they concentrated, what they feared in others, they created in themselves. So one has to be really careful. So when you tell children when they're little, now let's talk about the mental. When you tell children that they're stupid, they're dumb, they can't do anything right, they're lazy, they're always going to be, you know, nobody loves them, they're ugly. All these things feed your concept of who you are. Because we just talked about the physical. Now we're feeding the concept of the mental, you know, for a different image. We set up children who later become adults with low self-esteem or with anger issues or with great hurts and this void in their heart. They're not getting the love. They're not getting the attention. They're stupid. They're ignorant. They're whatever they are. They can't do anything. They got no reliance on themselves. They can't trust their own judgment because they're stupid. When I'm in a shopping mall or something, I hear some parent yelling at a kid, "You stupid little," you know, and I'm going, you can't do it, but you want to go over and slap them around and go, what are you doing? People don't realize what they're doing to children. So we do this all the time. Teachers do it. That's why when teachers are told that all the students in their class are low achievers, but they have high IQs and great potential. You've heard that story many times when you've done that.
Sure.
So the teacher thinks, well, these are high IQ, some of the highest IQ students in the school, they're low achieving. Well, I'm a good teacher. I can pull them up to that. It's all possible, right? So she believes in them. And next thing you know, they all get good grades. They all learn, right? Same thing works in reverse. You tell them they're all stupid in your class, and they all go, poof, expectations.
Well, your stories, reminded me of Milton's line from Paradise Lost. The mind can make a heaven out of a hell or a hell out of a heaven.
Oh, think about that. When you go on a trip someplace with a group, family, let's say, whatever. Somebody doesn't want to be there. The teenage girl doesn't want to be there because she wants to be with her boyfriend. She can go to Disneyland. You can take her to Hawaii, and it's a living hell, and she's going to make it hell for everybody else, right? It's like she doesn't see all the good stuff. And somebody else could be in a prison camp, Nazi concentration camp, like that famous philosopher that wrote all those great books. Can't say
Solzhenitsyn?
No, well, there's another one, but the one that was in the Nazi concentration camps. And he survived, but he was always happy. And people couldn't figure out because when he was in the concentration camp, he gave away most of his food to others to help. And he didn't hate the guards. He gave love to the guards. He gave love to everybody. And when they freed him up, his body weight was like 20% more than anybody else in the camp, and he ate less. He was healthier, and he was upbeat and smiling and making jokes. And while he was in the camp, he was teaching people Jewish religion stuff. He was helping people. He was counseling people. He always thought of other people when he was there. And so for him, it was an inconvenience, a terrible, ugly inconvenience. But he made it a place where joy could exist in his heart. because in his immediate touch of those people immediately around him, he made bliss and joy and peace with the immediate people that he could touch. He couldn't reach everybody, but the handful of people he was going to take care of. So we do that. Viet Nam. I was in Viet Nam, and you had guys that moan and groan. They count the day. Oh, I got 325 days. I got 322 days. I mean, and every day was full 24 hours, and they hated it. They hated the weather. They hated everything. I mean, even in combat, I noticed beautiful palm trees. I noticed some monkey jumping someplace. You know, it was like, even the weather. I'm going, this is beautiful. I love the heat. You know, I made up my mind I was going to love the heat. I was going to love the sweat. It just, and the friendships are so much deeper. And I'd see, geez, you make a friend here, instantaneous. It's like, it's a deeper thing, right? Which is dangerous because people get killed and then you just made a good friend. But I tried to see the good in everything and the good in everybody. And I tried to do the same thing when I was working in Folsom Prison, because I would teach these guys this. Talk about making heaven and hell. There's guys that are doing time in jail, and there's guys that are manifesting another level. In other words, I tell guys, you put up a sign in the chapel and says, "Come lecture tonight on how to escape from prison." Everybody shows up, right? And so, what you're trying to teach them to do is get out of the brain, get out of the body. That you don't have to be 24/7 in a prison cell, a prisoner. When you close your eyes and you teach them to meditate and you teach them to visualize other places. You know, for those that wouldn't really meditate really good, they weren't spiritual, religious, I'd teach them to visualize going fishing, visualize walking on the beach, visualize whatever it was, right? In those moments that they could visualize that, their body could not tell the difference between doing that for real, walking in the sunshine and the beach, and imagining it. Physiologically, their body would adapt, and they would be just as relaxed. Their heart rate would go down, their breathing would go down, their mind would get more relaxed. It had the same benefits as actually doing it. Now, if you added in a deep meditation into that on top of that, and they may be physically in jail, but that's how you succeed. That's somebody like Mandela, right? In South Africa, he was in jail for what? 17, 20 years, whatever it was.
What? Mm-hmm.
How did he survive? Because he wasn't there. You have to take your imagination out. And I learned that when I was 8 years old, and I was put in a county hospital, a ward of the county, and I had all these diseases and everything. I was almost 1 year in, prison, 1 year in the hospital. Now, for an 8-year-old going on 9, I celebrated my 9th birthday there. I also celebrated Christmas there, Thanksgiving there, Groundhog Day there, Easter there, 4th of July. When you're on total bed rest, you're not allowed to get out of the bed. You have no television. This is the 1950s, 53, 54. No television, no radio, no record player, no books, no magazines, no coloring books, no toys, and 80% of the time, nobody else in any other bed, by myself mostly. Staff coming in, wake you up in the morning at 6 o'clock when you change shift, bum, 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 bum. They make you clean yourself up and they feed you, and then they come through and they give you shots. The only time you see anybody the whole day, the only human touch you get is a shot, or somebody's cutting you and stitching you or something. That's it. And then they turn the lights on at 9. So the whole day you're laying on the bed. Can't go look out the window. It's in another whole area. So I learned at 8, 9 years old how to just lay there quietly and totally use the mind the mind as a playground. And in my mind, I went to India. In my mind, I went all kinds of places. And I had beautiful dreams and I visualized things. And then I taught myself to, continued different meditation techniques that I had learned and retaught myself. And I would spend the entire day emotionally or mentally. So that's why I taught these prisoners. And that's why during this epidemic, we're quote unquote prisoners in the house here in California. I've trained for this. I can handle not going out and doing a darn thing. It's all the same to me. Anyway, so that's that.
Your story about the only time you're being touched is when you were being given a shot. It seems very similar to how the response that the people in the senior centers are telling the medical staff is, they'd like to be able to see family, touch,
touches you,
hug the family. That's you have a lot of people saying that.
Yep.
That is, the isolation is just a huge issue in itself.
No, you've hit a nail on the head, because human touch. Babies will not thrive. They'll actually die unless they're cuddled. That's why these babies that are born premature or something, they have foster grandparents come in and just rock a baby, hold a baby, touch a baby. And those babies that get that attention will gain weight. They will thrive. They'll get the vitality. The signs improve. Physical health changes. Without human touch, now think about what we're doing to people that we throw in prison, and you put them in a cell by themselves, isolation. People think that's not great punishment. That's like one of the worst punishments you can do to somebody. They don't have anybody they can even talk to.
People aren't designed for isolation, and what we're living in now is actually unnatural.
Yeah, it is, because we are a family. It's just a family kind of thing. We've always been, the family. First it was a family, and then it's a couple families together. It becomes a tribe. It's just a community. But it's all interwoven. And but when here's the other flip side of that. When you really want to break the barriers that hold us in time and space, one has to venture down that other road that you say is unnatural. That's why somebody goes to a cave in the Himalayan mountains for 20 years, meditating in a cave by themselves, whatever. At some point, isolation for these super yogis, it'll either drive them crazy. That's a possibility. They'll crack that wall of darkness and find the light. It's two possibilities. That's why you can see some gurus that they kind of go off someplace, right? But it's like if you're really isolated, single focus, trying to find something, you will. And there's great power if you can shut off the mind and shut off the senses. Then isolation becomes your greatest teacher and friend. But if you can't shut off the senses, seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, all these other things, if you can't shut that off, there's the torture. So it's trying to teach people to ease into that mode where you can shut down for short periods of time, because the mind needs to be shut off. It's exhausting. Thoughts going through your head all the time. It's nonstop. Even when you're sleeping, the mind's still going. So when you get a really restful period, it's like when you're really focused and concentrate on something, you're sitting. I've seen fishermen do it. You see a fisherman, he's just his pole's sitting there. He ain't fishing. You know, fishing's like one of the greatest excuses to do nothing. I'm fishing. No, you're not. You're sitting there just laughing.
I've had a few days like that.
Yeah. But it's a wonderful experience. But you don't feel guilty about it. I'm fishing, right? You know. So when we can get outside of us, outside of the I, we're on a different trajectory. Now you're moving, you're expanding your awareness, and you're tapping into your higher self. You're tapping into the greater consciousness. You're always tapped in. It's just the degree and the level of your awareness that you are. But that's how you build the awareness.
Okay. You're just talking about a degree of awareness. And one of the interesting stories from your book was the one with Gail, and you're doing all this
okay, Gail,
phone calls with. And it's really interesting that you conclude the section with her about maybe we've been friends throughout time. It's really interesting when people can't go anywhere now. You start meeting more people on Facebook, or someone contacts like you, where you contacted Barbara to possibly be a guest.
Yeah, it's interesting. I am in contact with more people now.
Yeah,
busier people-wise than when I can move around, because I was traveling across the United States, across the world. Every other week I was on an airplane going someplace or driving my truck. And now, with this convenience of me sitting home, I can have multiple conferences, talks. I'm finishing this up, and I'm having to send some stuff to a group in Maui that I'm speaking to next month. So there's all these things going on. But the story with Gail is interesting. Let's talk about that, because that hits home at 5 or 6 different places. There's a case where Gail Lynn's this very famous novelist, writes thrillers. There's a couple movies that she's done, but thrillers and spy type stuff. And I didn't know her, but somebody thought I should know her. They said, "Oh, this is a lady that you should meet her, and she should read your book." So one of my good friends gave her a copy of one of my books, and that was my autobiography. And Gail goes, "Yeah, okay, well, thank you." I mean, she had 1,000 books to read, and it was like, it was my first book, and it didn't have that great of a book cover. And it was, anyway, it didn't impress her. So it sat on her dresser for 6 months, nightstand, and was buried under about 10 books. And then one day she was going, "What is this thing?" So she picks it up, and then one thing leads to the next thing. She can't put it down, and she goes to a restaurant, and she reads it, and then loses it at the restaurant, and has to go back to the restaurant, find the book. There's a book that she was going to throw away anyway, and all of a sudden she had to finish this book because it hit her, and she started crying, and the book just really emotional. So anyway, so that's the story I got from her. I didn't know her where she was. She contacted my friend and found out my phone number. And on Mother's Day, 2000 and whatever year it was, 4 or 5 or something, 6, she calls me up. She goes, "This is Bill McDonald." She says, "Well, you don't know me. I write books." And she introduced herself and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen that movie. I read that. Okay, I know those books, yeah." And she's trying. She says, "I read your book, and I really want it. It's to help promote it. I want to market it. I want to help you rewrite it and make it professional. I want to do all this great stuff for you. And then I interrupted her and I said, no. This conversation is not about that. No. I said, no. And I said, and I just stopped her. I said, now think about this. Here she is. She's calling me up, right? And now I'm going to sound like a crazy man with her. And I go, do you have an owl, some kind of piece of art that's an owl in your house? She goes, no. And she kept going. And I interrupted her. And I said, no, you got an owl. It's either by your front door or your back door. No. And she's getting irritated. And I said, no, I insist. I said, your sliding glass door, your back door, outside, you got a metal sculpture of an owl. She goes, no. And then she's got the phone and she walks outside and I hear this, what? Because that's exactly what she's got. On her second story patio, sliding glass door, there's this metal sculpture of an owl that she bought 20 years before when she was with her husband, and he was kind of controlling and everything, apparently, or something. But she wanted to show that, she could make a decision. So she bought this on her own, this piece of art, and then she put these gems in the eyes of it and everything. And so that was her like, I can't be controlled. I'm a woman that could do stuff, right? And she put it out there 20 years. It's been sitting out there, apparently, right? She forgot about it. And she goes, how'd you know it was there? You never been to my house. You don't even know where I live. And I said, okay. So then I gave her a bunch more stuff. And then she goes, well, do you interpret dreams? And I said, try me. She says, well, I've had this reoccurring dream at night where these whirling dervishes, these guys in the Middle East, that they got these like skirts and they twirl around when their meditation is whirling. I'm trying to think of what religion that is. Somebody will know. Somebody that's out there will know and answer that for us when they make comments on this. But whirling dervishes, look it up. And she thought it was about that. And I go, no, it's not about that. She says, oh, I said, look, you asked me to interpret it. Here's what it's about. I said, they're dancing around you and they're reaching out to you. They want you to dance. And it's not dance. It's the dance of life. Because she was just recently a widow and she's been pulling back, not doing anything, staying in the house. And I said, no, this is the time for you to get out and to dance. She says, what do you mean dance? I said, life is like dance. And I tried to give her a thing, and I picked up one of my poetry books. I do write poetry books too. And I took one of the poems and I read it, and I said, this is similar, but not exactly what I want to say. It's about engaging in life, the dance, getting on the dance floor and all that stuff. And then I stopped and I said, you know what? The right answer will come later on. I'll send you the right answer later, but this is not the example I wanted to give you. And it was funny because we talked 5 hours on the phone, and when I hung up, I went to my email, and there was from a former MP, Vietnam vet. He was an MP in Vietnam, tough guy. And he sends me, he says, hey, what do you think? These are really neat words to this country and western song. Apparently there was a country and western song back then. I can't remember what it was, but it was about getting on, getting on with life. You got to get on the dance floor of life, and you got to let it hang out. And it was all about fun and dancing, but it was all about life. And he says, and he sent me the lyrics. And I go, boom, and I saw the time that he said it. It was the exact time I said, well, I'm not going to answer this right now because the right answer will come later. It was the exact time I said that he'd sent that email to me. So I forwarded that to her, and she goes, oh my gosh. So meanwhile, I'm still talking to her for that 5 hour period. And I said, I'm talking to you, and I'm getting this vision in my mind's eye of a rosebud that's trying to open up. The rosebud, smell the rose until the rosebud opens up, and then you smell the fragrance. And I said, you're like a rosebud that wants to open up. And life, you could smell the fragrance of life and everything else. And you're like that rosebud. You need to open up so people can smell the love within you and all that. I went through this big explanation about that, and then she stopped me and she says, I smell roses. She goes, where's that coming from? So she's walking around with her phone around the house. Everywhere she goes, it smells fragrance of roses. For 72 hours after that, she smelled roses in her house. So it was one thing. It was like, you read my book, I go into more, but there was like a whole bunch of stuff like that happened. Of course, now she believes everything I wanted to say, right? Well, what else you got to say, right? But there was also an old friendship there, because that's where we were taking this thing originally. But she was an old friend, and that's how I could read her. It's the only way I could explain it. But it was like, I'd never been to her house before then. I went to her house about a year later, and I knew where everything was at. It was the slide glass. It was just like I'd been there, right? Because I already saw it when I was on the phone. Don't ask me how you see it on the phone. What sense do you use to see it? I see it. End of story. But there's a lot of people I meet that they open their hearts to me because they come and they've asked for help. Therefore, I can read them and I can help them. If somebody comes to me and they're protecting their identity, their emotions, who they are, I don't trespass. So I do read people, but when people don't want to be read, that's like violation. It's like reading somebody's thoughts when you're eavesdropping on them. That's not right. But if somebody's made a motion and a gesture or actually said it, that they really want help from you, they want to understand their problem and everything else, so then I will read them to a different level. Because to help them, I really understand. So when people call me up or Skype me or Zoom me or email me, sometimes I'll ask something stupid, like I'll say, send me a picture of yourself. Why? Just humor me. Send me a picture of yourself. But they don't realize that when I get a picture of them, because some people are hard to read. So if I get a picture, it opens up, and then I am strong enough to read them. But some people on a phone, I can read them. Or you talking about your parents or somebody else in your life, if that person, even though they're distant and they're not connected immediately with us, I could read them because you're opening a channel for them. So, and that's not magic, because it really gets down to what I originally said at the beginning of this interview. It's all about energy and vibration. And since we're all connected, ultimately as you connect up to your higher self, you keep connecting and keep connecting. It's all one. It's a big matrix, like a web. It's all one, though. I mean, it's just one. We make life harder for ourselves by identifying everything as separate from ourselves. This computer's separate from me. You're separate from me. Tomorrow's separate from me. The moon. I mean, they're objects. But they're all mind stuff.
Yeah, your use of the word channel to explain that connection is just really interesting. I don't know if it's amplified by the technology. I guess it can be the same in person, or people just get married the next day.
Reading people is an art. It really is. And basically, a dog reads us. Let's get down to basics. A dog reads you. Dog knows when you're mad at it. It knows when to love. It knows when to come around. Knows when to go away. Dogs read people pretty good. And are they more smarter than us? They can see things differently. They hear different sounds than we hear. Dog whistles, we can't hear it, right? So there's a whole spectrum of sound out there we don't hear. Certain insects and birds see hundreds more colors than we do. We see the basic spectrum of the rainbow, but there's other species out there on this planet, Earth, that see multiple colors and wavelengths and vibrations, basically gamma waves and this kind of waves, cosmic waves. I mean, it's we don't see but just a small spectrum of anything. Now, if you add what we don't see and what we don't hear, and then you look at space itself, there's a real anomaly. What is space? If you look at an atom, you got a nucleus, and then you got an electron floating around out there. No matter what small area, there's distance between it. There's nothing solid between the electron and the neutron. It's not. And then if you look at the electron, it's not solid at all. And neither is the nucleus. It's all empty, right? And everything is made out of that. So when you stand up on the earth or on the floor, if you're not solid, why don't you fall through? You're both not. The earth's not solid. You're not solid. Why don't you just fall through? Energy within you repulses the energy in the other object. It's almost like reversing two magnets. So otherwise you don't fall through. But if you have the control to change and reverse the polarity and the magnetism and the energy within yourself, you can fall through anything. You can walk through a wall. Okay? So, what is space? What is emptiness? What's nothing? Nothing is something, right? Everything is something or everything is nothing. So it's all mind stuff. If you didn't have a mind with all the senses, you wouldn't see any of that. Now, if you're in a different plane, a different dimension, astral world, causal world, rainbow body world, body of light, now you have different abilities, different energy. You're vibrating. Just like on the earth, fish, they vibrate at a certain level. They have to stay in the water. They can't come out. They can survive very long. Birds fly in the air. Elephants walk on the ground. Everything's got its place, right? In these interdimensional cosmos within us and around us, they all vibrate at a different level. And they all exist right here, right now. That's what people don't understand. It's like, Reverend Bill, how'd you know that was going to happen? That's, you knew that a year before. What's going on? Everything is happening now, and all someone has to do is slide on the scale. It's all light, it's all vibration, it's all energy. So all you got to do is, it's like, life is, let's get old tech, because I'm old tech. A VCR tape, right? You've got a VCR tape, and I bring you this movie. Your whole life is this VCR tape. You don't see nothing on it, right? Because you haven't got a machine. So you need a life, you need a breath, you need a birth. All right, so now you're the machine, right? You only see what's focused on that little magnetic strip right there that goes on the screen. And you forget, you don't see any longer what happened before, and you don't see the future of that tape. But it's all there already. Your life is a VCR tape. It's all there already. All you got to do is remember the future. You just have to remember tomorrow. That's the trouble. People don't remember. It's funny. That's my new book. I still remember tomorrow. I have trouble remembering where I put my keys at and remember what I did yesterday and what I had for breakfast. But I still remember tomorrow. That's easy. So it is also possible to slide into the past. So it's just as easy to read the future as it is to read the past. The only trouble with reading the past is people have a lot of imagination, and people imagine they were this person and that person, and everybody thinks they're somebody rich and famous from the past, and they were all celebrities from the Bible and everywhere else. And I kind of laugh when everybody tells me, I was this guy, I was that guy, I walked with Jesus, I did that. You know, but here's the funny truth of it. Since I believe that we're only one of us, we're all one, then anything you say you were, I was too. We were both. You know, we're both Jesus. We're both Buddha. We're both Hitler. We're both everything, because it's all God. And if we're all one, then anything that was anybody ever, that's you. But what happens is we, in time and space, and realize when I talk about creation, you wouldn't have creation without time and space, right? Time gives you memories. Time gives you life and death. Time gives you past and future. If you don't have time, there is no past and future. How do you get a handle on that? How do you explain that to anybody? This is not about explanation. The only way you're aware of these things and you can handle it is if you experienced it. So when you have an experience where you could slide into the past and meet yourself in the past, which I did, or you slide into the future, I did, or you move anywhere along that spectrum, or you have an experience of samadhi where you become one with everything that you've observed, or anything that you, to say see or touch or feel, that's wrong, because you just one with everything. I mean, there's that knowing sense of total absorption. You've been absorbed by love, by light, and you are one. So everything's an illusion. Even illusion is an illusion. It's like somebody says you're delusional. Everybody is. It's all delusion. It's all an illusion. It is what it is, as they say, as the great masters say. It is as it is. But you got to live in this world. That's the rules of this game of creative existence, this creative life that we're in, this material world. You have to have a body. And that's what keeps you in this present dream. And then when you die and you go to, you call it heaven, you call it anything you want, wherever you go next, in an astral body or whatever, you still retain that self-identity, therefore you retain a body. You got an astral body. You still got a body when you got a casual body. You still got a body when you're a rainbow body, light, whatever. So as long as you got that self-awareness, you've separated yourself from God. And actually, you separate yourself from your real self. It's like the ocean. If you take a cup of the ocean out and you take it ashore and you set it in your kitchen, that cup says, I'm a cup of water. Here I am, right? No, it's always the ocean. No matter how far you take it away, it's always the ocean. That is the same thing as what you took it from.
With what you were just discussing with the spectrum, oneness, with the universe, tonight's message, you covered a lot of all these just different religions, or basically everyone's just trying to get to the same place.
Let's talk about different religions. First off, God has no religion.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus wasn't Christian. Buddha wasn't Buddhist. Oh my God, he wasn't. None of these guys, all these founders of religions, basically their followers started them. But spirituality, which I think this newer generation of people are less, they're less inclined to be spending time in the Sunday pew than they would in the past, but it doesn't mean they're less spiritual. They are seeking a level of awareness in a different place. Everybody is spiritual. I hear somebody say, oh, he's spiritual. Everybody is spiritual. You can't separate the non-spiritual from the person. But we are different reflections of that cosmic consciousness. There's a different awareness level. Ultimately, we're already enlightened. We're already one with God. Okay, that's your destiny. But we're at different levels of waking up. So, since there's no time and space, you could say, people told me, well, Reverend Bill, why got to be in a hurry? Well, I said, there's no hurry. We'll all get there. But you believe in this dream, and you've accepted it as your reality. Therefore, you also believe in its pain, and you've taken on its suffering. And that's not a lot of fun, right? So just looking at it that way, yeah, there's no hurry, but you can hang around here forever. So we're all on the same train. Let's put it this way. Let's say in your life, you meet up somebody that's your spiritual mentor, teacher, guru, somebody higher than that perhaps, and you follow this person, and that person's job is to take the flock, right? Take them to the top of the mountain, right? Everybody's looking for that guru on the mountaintop experience where they take them, introduce them to God in the clouds. Here we are, we're all going to the top. Well, the top, the Everest, is awakening and knowing that you're God, right? That's the top. So you get this guide that's going to take you. And basically, we're all in the same rope. We're going to climb Mount Everest together. Now, some of us are in the base camp. We got this rope around us. Some are in the first camp up above, the second camp, the third camp. Some of us are in the death zone. Some of us are almost at the top. Some of us reach the top, right? But we got people all the way back to the valley. They haven't even got to the base camp yet, right? But if anybody falls along that path, this protector, saint, guru, leader, mentor, whoever we've chosen to help us, is going to keep us on the path. So we're each looking for that leader. We're each looking for that mentor. In truth, that one guru is all one guru. It may take different faces. It may look like Jesus. It may look like Buddha. It may look like whoever you want. But it's only one. In the end, it's the guru within the guru. God, consciousness, that takes us to the goal. So our task is stay hooked to the rope. And if we're in a hurry, we can pass a few people. No crime. And we really want to get going. We're going to go even without an oxygen mask. I don't need an oxygen mask. I'm going to the top. I'm going to go up to the top of Everest. I'm going to, all right.
Okay.
That's the goal. And the truth is, we all make it. That's the good news. Nobody's going to hell and damnation forever. We're all God. God ain't going to, torture himself. I mean, it's never going to happen. So, little people like me that are out there that are quote unquote teaching or leading or showing or sharing, we are nothing more than bus drivers. We're on this bus taking you to this place so you can start your path up the mountain. And I'm driving along, and I'm the so-called teacher, but I'm going to hear this old guy behind me talking and go, that's pretty darn good. Hey, why don't you go up here and drive for a while? And pretty soon there's going to be a kid in the back that's going to teach me something. He's going to go up, he's going to drive. In other words, we're all in the same bus. Some people are in the back of the bus. Some people think they're the teacher, they're the driver. But that bus, when it arrives at its destination, like an airplane, when an airplane lands, I don't care if you're in the back row, the front row, you're all in the same city at the same time, right? Whatever order you get off doesn't make any difference. So it's the same thing when you got people that are the leaders of a group or a teacher, and they start thinking that they're the driver. We're all drivers. We all take our turn. We got something to teach people, we teach. If somebody's got something to teach us, great. Because if you go through whole life and you think, I can only teach, I can only teach. I can't learn from this. You can learn from everybody in your life. Even from negative things you learn. So there's always something to learn. So one has to become both a teacher and a student. But if you're only one or the other, you're missing something. If you're always a student and you're never a teacher, that's no good either. Because even though you may be not a high achieving student, well, if you're in high school and you're not the smartest guy in high school, but you know more than a sixth grader, you could tutor the sixth grader, right? So there's always somebody that we can teach. So to me, I call my secret of life one hand up and one hand down. As you go through life, you reach up to somebody that you intuitively feel or know that this person is got higher energy than you. It's not a judgment. You just feel, you sense it. And then this person, your brother needs help. He's down here, right? You're going to grab him. And if you're not willing to help somebody that's below you, then how do you expect anybody that's above you to reach down and help you, right? So this whole thing is about reaching up and reaching down. Being a student, reaching up. Being a teacher, reaching down. It's a chain. It's an endless chain. Because there's always somebody knows more than you do. And you always know something more than the other guy. So it's an endless chain.
Yeah. It's more the balance concept that you talk about as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of teacher and student, we have a caller.
Good.
And it is... His name is Don Chow. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And
let me help you out there. My name is Pastor Don Jr., CEO. And you have to say it all together. Sometimes we forget that people don't type anymore. I grew up with black and green computers. Now we have all 256 colors. People don't type anymore. So it's Pastor Don Jr., CEO. How you doing tonight, Elder?
All right, so let's do this. Since I just been talking about everybody's a student and a teacher, you have some wisdom to share. I sense that. I'd like to hear seriously. You've been listening. You got some thoughts. I would love to hear.
I do have wisdom.
How old are you?
I'm 42. I've been in business on my own for 23 years. I walked into my father's office when I was very young in the game, and I told my father, I said, "Look, these people don't have $5,000. They can't afford our services. We need to still work with them anywhere." He took another bite of his sandwich and told me kindly, "Son, you need to get your own place." So for the last 23 years, I've been in business. I've been a pastor for 17 years. And I lived in 40 out of 50 states, and I've knocked on over 100,000 doors, so I have plenty of wisdom to share. I'm very well equipped, well ready. God sent me here for a reason.
Well, I'll tell you what, we were talking earlier about Christmas stories. Now, if you've been talking to that many people out there, do you have something that happened at Christmas with one of the people that you work with that touched you in some way that you'd like to share?
Absolutely. One thing about Christmas is the fourth quarter. A lot of people don't realize that when you sign a lease for a house, most people, when you look geographically over the last 20 or 30 years, they move during the months of October, December, and November. Those last September, we can't forget about September, but the last 4 months, not necessarily the last quarter. Quarter works in 3 month cycles on a physical calendar year, but that that first planning month is okay. You get this spark from God to say it's time to move, but moving around and meeting so many people and actually interacting with life, I've learned something, and I want to share this with y'all. At a blink of an eye, everything can change. Even though this virus has everybody living in the spirit of fear, God is bigger than any situation. You can read that in Ephesians 6:10. He's going to bless us more than we can imagine and hope for. But at the end of the day, I only preach faith, love, and hope. I can't get into what you spoke or who you lay with and how you live your day-to-day life. But what I can say, if you keep the faith, you have love for people, and you hope that you're doing the right thing, all the things will fall into place in God's timing. Now, this is really important. I'm going to leave this with y'all. Adam ate the fruit that Eve presented to him, and he said, once you eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, from this day you will die. But Adam will be 936 years. I'm not saying keep sinning, doing anything wrong. I'm saying that a day for you is 1,000 years for God, or 10 seconds for you is 10 billion years for God. So we don't know what God's going to do tomorrow. So don't put God in the box. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you for listening in tonight. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
Did you have a question?
I do have a question. I do have a question. With Christmas being the holiday season and it's all being closed down, how can we tell Grandma and Grandpa that we love them without not giving them a call and sending them an Instagram or emoji? What kind of avenues would you say would be best for us to reach out to our loved ones? Because, we used to do the Christmas cards, the ugly sweater, everybody go down to the Christmas place and take the picture. And we used to have to come home before the street lights. Those values are gone. In this digital age, what do you feel would be best to show Grandma and Grandpa that you love them without not actually sending them an emoji?
I tell you what, because it depends on. Well, I'm a grandparent. I'm 75, and I'm into electronics, but not everybody at this age or older knows how to do Zoom, Skype, FaceTime. But I tell you what, if you could do one of those methods, that's great. Someone could set it up for them, a character for somebody. But I tell you what really helps people, and you being a pastor, because you sense it and feel it, it's part of your work. When you pray for people and you visualize them when you pray for them and you visualize Jesus' love and light around them, even if you don't tell them that, love knows no boundaries. Send love, true love, people feel it. They don't understand it, but they feel it. So it's very important that, if nothing else, you have a phone call with older people. We're going to lose some older people this year, and we're losing some emotionally. These are hard years right now. I haven't seen my grandkids. I haven't touched my grandkids since March 16th. So, I've been in the house pretty much, and I don't let them come over. They miss me. I miss them. I do FaceTime once in a while. But they're old people out there, and they need to know they're appreciated. And I'm old-fashioned. To me, phone calls and letters are still good. I appreciate getting a letter. A letter is so rare now. People send a card, they doesn't do it. Letters really mean something. And I've had grandchildren call grandparents and sing them a song, a Christmas song, which I think is really kind of neat, on the phone, and they can hear the kids singing a carol. Anything like that. You got your work cut out for you, sir, and I send you my love, and I wish you best for the holidays. But you're right. Christmas, they say, is the fourth quarter, but it's also the first. It's also the first minute of the game. Getting the game, right? It is the Alpha and Omega, right?
Amen.
So blessings to you. Amen.
Amen.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Amen.
Thanks for calling
I'm going to hang out for the rest of the show as long as y'all don't hang me up.
Good night.
Yeah. Do you have another question?
I think it's gone now.
Oh, okay.
But there's a guy that's out there doing work in the trenches. I mean, to knock on that many houses, to that many people. See, that's a giving spirit. How do you teach people that? By him talking about that, what he does, somebody listens out there, and that's how they learn, because they go, well, there's a guy doing that. I don't have to do 10,000 people, 100,000 people, but, I got neighbors I could talk to. I got, strangers, there's homeless people. There's a lot of people out there just need somebody to listen. And if you're a pastor or a minister, if you don't know how to listen, you're missing it. And listening is truly the art of ministry. So we teach people to pray. We teach people to listen by meditation, because even God wants to be heard, right? If you pray all the time to God, you always talk to God, but you never listen. That's kind of a one-way thing, isn't it? So sometimes you got to stop the thoughts, stop the mind, and be receptive. God's talking to you too, right? All right.
Okay. Well,
Mark, we got any other questions out there? Or?
Yeah, that's the only caller right now, but, Pastor Don Junior CEO was...
for him, since he's a Christian minister, I'm gonna tell a story. When I give a sermon at a Assembly of God or a Protestant church, they usually like this story. There's a true story. It deals with a young man from a church and a group of people, young people, coming to Sacramento. And they came in a bus. It was one of those First Baptist churches, I think, from San Jose. That's what they had under. I'm going down in a raft on the American River in Sacramento. And I stop at the beach, and I look down the end of the beach, and there's a whole bunch of crowd of people standing around. And I look out in the water, because I'm a former lifeguard, and I see this body floating out there. So I go running down the beach, right? And then finally, these guys grab that guy. So these guys, they finally bring this guy out of the water. Apparently, this kid was underwater 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes. Nobody knew how long time. Ice cold water, melting snow coming down from the Sierras. And then they just laid him on the sand of the beach. And everybody's just standing there. All these young people, talking teenagers, standing there just looking down at the ground. And I'm getting mad, right? It's like going there and I push all these kids away, and I being a lifeguard, I go, okay, I'm the guy. I know what I'm doing. So I grab him, I tilt his neck, I check if he has anything in his mouth. I'm doing compression on his chest. I'm giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And I'm doing this for a long time. There's no pulse. There's no breath. He's ashen gray, almost a white. He's dead. I mean, there's people mumbling, he's dead. And I'm going, I figure, it's cold water, and I don't, being a lifeguard, once I start to give somebody, artificial respiration of some kind, until a fireman or a paramedic comes and says, stop, I just go, right? So I'm going a long time on this kid. And then pretty soon, he erupts. I don't know if you ever give mouth-to-mouth to anybody, Mark, but when they come through, they vomit. I mean, it's projectile. And I'm mouth-to-mouth with this guy, and so it's inside my mouth, and it's all of my beard and hair and face. And I just said, the hell with it, and I just go back and I try to clear his lungs. And he finally gets up. So he went from being dead to standing. And he turns out he's 17 years old. But I'm looking at this young, beautiful little 16, 17-year-old girl, blonde girl that's next to him. And I'm going, what's wrong with you people? And I looked at the whole group of people, right? I said, what's wrong with you kids? Your friend was laying here dying, dead, and you guys were standing there not doing a damn thing. And that's what I said. I said, damn thing, and it's a church group, And I said, what were you thinking? So this little 16-year-old girl, she goes, well, mister, we were doing something. And I said, what were you doing? She says, none of us knew how to do what you just did. So we were all praying that Jesus would send somebody that knew how to do it. I go, what? That's right. And she says, you came, didn't you? And so I was speechless. And I was like, what? What? Because I was mad at him. And then I said, what do you say, right? So it was like, okay. So that's generally the story I give when I go to a Protestant church, because they all get it. I don't have to explain it. But it's that was the only time I went rafting, like in about a dozen years. It was the only time that I got off on that beach the whole time I've lived in the area, 41 years. Never been back to that beach. At that moment, the guy's being dragged out of the water. At that moment, that bus was there with those children. And I, being the only trained person lifeguard, professional lifeguard at one time, on the beach. Coincidence. Perfect timing.
It was meant to happen.
There you go. So my whole life is a whole bunch of those things. And when people do read any of my books, either Alchemy of a Warrior's Heart, which is about going to India with miracles and supernatural things and a couple of near-death experiences, or my autobiography, which is Warrior, a Spiritual Odyssey, which deals with this story I just told, among other things, and all kinds of chicken soup of the soul kind of events in my life, plus Viet Nam, some pretty heavy stuff, plus alien and abduction story and ghost stories, and all nonfiction. But the purpose of writing those books and having them out there is not to say, oh, this happened to me. It's to tell people that believe miracles and supernatural, spiritual, mystical things that happened in the past happened in the present. They still happen in the now all the time, and not just me. So if somebody's out there and they go to Amazon, speaking of Christmas, makes a good Christmas gift. You might want to give them a copy. Anyway, they go to my website. They'll find some links to that, but they'll also find my YouTube video channel, which has a lot of stories that are in my books. You don't have to spend a penny. Go to my YouTube channel, watch my videos, and I have short videos, long videos, and more inspirational stuff. The whole idea is to inspire people. And what purpose do I want to inspire them? I want them to become seekers after their own self-realization, after their own awareness, for their own spiritual growth. In other words, this is all about making a spiritual effort every day. And if that means your effort is going to church, saying the catechism, having candles, whatever your religious beliefs are, don't be a hypocrite. Follow your religious beliefs. So that's kind of where I'm at. So in summary, it's like I see the old clock on the wall is starting to wind up. In summary, basically what I teach is just two basic things: to love and to serve. People are always asking, what's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? Why are you here? Why are we all here? And I tell people it's just to love and serve. And then you can compress that down to just to love. Because serving is loving. And when you serve others, it's the most selfish act you can do. What? What do you mean? Because there's no way that when you help somebody that you don't help yourself. When you give somebody some love and something from yourself, you give it to yourself as well. So that's why I tell people it's the most selfish thing you can do is help others. It just keeps coming at you. It keeps coming. You can't. Please don't give me any more help. Don't. I got too many hugs and too many loves. Don't give me any more. I've never met anybody that's ever said that, but conceivably it's possible you get too much love, theoretically. Now, by the same token, the opposite's true. If you hold anger and hate towards others, you don't forgive people, send that out. That's exactly what you get back. So, what you sow, so shall you reap. Literally. That's karma, in an essence. So, Mark, I appreciate you having me on here. And hopefully we're not going to have any weird sound effects on this.
I don't think so. No, and I thought you provided wonderful examples of the age of miracles isn't over. There are still many people out there with the apostolic spirit and are out knocking on doors, like Pastor Don Jr. Just mentioned. This was a great show. It was very uplifting and got us ready for the Christmas season.
And hopefully people realize, as they did this year, you notice when the virus came, that the Hallmark Channel and the Lifetime Channel and all these channels you could watch Christmas movies from March, April, June, July, August, Halloween. I mean, Christmas movies were nonstop. I'd never seen so many. I watched a bunch myself. So Christmas is not just a season. Christmas is a heartfelt piece of real estate. Own that heart. It's Christmas all the time. God bless and thank you for having me on here, Mark. And Barbara, if she's listening in, bless you too.
Yeah. Well, I'm here. She's saying that there's 1 minute left, which doesn't necessarily mean that she's a Grinch. She's just telling us that we have to wrap it up, and you are welcome to come back anytime. It was a lot of fun. My friend, the Human Billboard, said she enjoyed the show. So, she was getting some messages out of it too. So it was a terrific show. Thank you for everything you do, Reverend Laird McDonald.
There you go.
Get it all in there. So
I own a little parcel land over there in Scotland now.
Okay. All right. So we will see everyone next week. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon. Have a great week.